Welcome into Emerald and Lilywhite. This is episode 39. We are the official YouTube channel of Seattle Spurs. We are here to talk about the official thumping that Tottenham Hotspur took to AZ Alkmaar yesterday. It is Friday, the 7th, as we record. 1-0 result, right? So maybe thumping doesn't befit the scoreline, but anyone who watched understands where we're coming from. We're going to dive into it. We'll talk a little bit about what's to come this weekend as well as next Thursday. But before we get in to all of that, I want to introduce the panel. With me, as always, my co-host Max at Going Limbs. Max, what's up, man?
Yeah, that's just an unacceptable result from the players and the manager. And it's going to be interesting to see where we go from here. I think at this point, people have kind of it seems like Postecoglou's time is very I'd say dwindling at this point in his career at Spurs.
Yeah, we're for sure going to talk about all of that. I want to bring in the other fellas as well with us. Robbie at Robbie_Light and Robbie Light on Twitter. Robbie, what's up?
I'm sad. That's all I'll say. I'm sad.
Yeah, it happens when you're a Spurs fan. And with the three of us rounding out, as Robbie called it yesterday, the quad pod. I think it's the first time the four of us have been able to hop on together. And we got Chang 2 weeks in a row today. Chang at Alex Chang with an X instead of an A. What's up, bro?
What's up? And just not beating the pasta no clue allegations, bro.
We're gonna talk a lot about it today, fellas. We're gonna talk about a lot of things. We're kind of gonna freestyle this one. Obviously, the big talking point is the result yesterday. And like I said, we'll talk a little bit about what's to come over the next week as far as two matches on the horizon, with a huge one coming up next Thursday. But let's jump into the lineup. I think that is probably where the majority of this group is going to want to start poking holes. Pull it up here. Vicario, Spence, Gray, Danzo, Udogie across the back, and then in midfield, the Bentaker, Bergvall, and Madison, with the front line of Sun, Tell, and Johnson. So I think almost what people would maybe predict. I have questions about the decision-making from a lineup perspective at the right back position specifically. But Max, I'll come to you. I tend to do that with the lineup, right? I want to get your take on this. What did you make initially of that lineup when you saw it posted?
To be honest, I kind of expected it. That's been the midfield that was kind of selected itself. I don't know. I think this was probably the strongest fit lineup we could have put out. Yeah. So I don't know if you can blame the personnel decisions here. But I think it was more of a tactical ineptitude from Ange yesterday, because the lineup on paper isn't too bad. Maybe you could recognize that Tell is not working, slide Sonny to the 9. Clearly Solanke wasn't up for starting yet. So maybe that was a change I would have made. Maybe people want Porro on the right to create some more creative passing. I could see that as well. But if we're just in a vacuum, I think this is probably the strongest lineup he could have put out, and I can't really fault him for the lineup decisions. But as for the tactical decisions, way off base, I feel.
Yeah, let's talk about those tactics. Then I do want to come back to the lineup, but when you highlight that tactical ineptitude, how would you start breaking that down, I guess?
Yeah, so I think the big thing for me, and a lot of people on Twitter were talking about this, it's that his tactics are so rigid in the philosophy that he wants to play. Inverted fullbacks, link up play with the striker, touchline wingers, that he's not adapting to the strengths that we have in this squad. When you look at Sonny, he's not a touchline winger. Tell, he's not a hold-up striker. He's a striker that wants to get in behind. And even in the midfield, Bentancur, he's not a 6 that's going to hold there, switch the play. He's going to get up the field. He wants to press more. He's not like a traditional 6. I don't think he's a 6 at all. And that's also, his positioning isn't good enough for us to play with these higher up fullbacks. And it just feels like, rather than adjusting the system to the personnel he has, he's more focused on trying to make like fit square pegs and round holes. That's basically what I'm seeing out there. It's like I can see what he's trying to do, but every single player doesn't fit the exact right way in this system. And it feels like we just need to adjust to fit players' strengths, and rather we're highlighting their weaknesses, and that's showing up, especially attacking right now. It's brutal.
Yeah, Chang, I see you nodding your head, man. You want to get in on this conversation?
Yeah, I think Max has a lot of good points. I think, yeah, like square pegs, round holes. You know, we look at our attack, like can't even get a shot on target, I think, until like the dying minutes. It just goes to show like watching our attack is honestly like watching grass grow. It's like so boring. I know exactly what's gonna happen. They're just gonna pass it around, gonna pass it side to side, and then someone's gonna make a shit pass, shit touch, and then we get countered. Like it happens every single time. I think I said it in the group chat, like it's gonna be one of those games where we have like 65% possession and just like no clear-cut chances, no good shots. And that's exactly what happened. Like we didn't look dangerous for a single portion of the game. And that's so sad because we're playing fucking AZ Alkmaar. This team is worse than PSV, which Arsenal just stuck 7 past. Like, it's honestly embarrassing, bro. Like, this team is just, it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch. All they do is just waste an hour and a half of my time. It's crazy.
And
Yeah,
Chang's right. It's not even a moment, not even 30 seconds of danger was presented by Tottenham in that game. Like we couldn't even have like a fleeting hope at scoring a goal.
Honestly, I watched 20 minutes of the first half and the full second half. I had a couple things going on yesterday and did my best. So let's say I caught 65 to 70 minutes of the match yesterday. And from what I saw, they had us pinned back the entirety of what I saw, right? We couldn't progress the ball out of our own half. And if you look on paper, we just went through the lineup. It's right in front of us, right? Vicario, Spence, Danzo, Udogi, Bentaker, Bergvall, Madison, Son, Johnson, all of the players I just named are miles more talented than anyone that AZ Alkmaar was able to put on the field, right? And so when you start to look at just the quality of each team's lineup and the way that we got absolutely played off the park, there's only one person you can look at in that moment, and that's the manager or the tactician, right? Whomever that is. I'm not here to beat up Ange Postecoglou, right? I'm not here to scream Ange out at this point, but I am starting to see that from the tactical side of things, we may be falling short. And again, that only falls on one person or that person and their staff, right? Without a doubt. And before I bring Robbie on this too, I do want to point out when I look at the lineup, and I said earlier that I have questions about it. I think my questions are more so around, and we've talked about this already, the lineup we put out against City, having a week off, and then coming out against Alkmaar in this match. I don't know why you play Porro against Doku and then rest Porro against Alkmaar. Porro eats against teams that are less talented than us all day long, right? He'll be afforded the space to get forward and won't need to be as defensive minded as you would against a Doku. It's a massive miss for me. And I'm not saying Porro versus Spence. You can put Spence on the left side. I'm not getting any of that, but I'm just pointing out what I feel like was a big miss from Ange Postecoglou there. There's no reason to play Porro against Doku and then not play him against AZ Alkmaar. I think the reverse would have been much more effective. And from somebody sitting on my couch, it seems pretty obvious, right? So I don't know. That was a little bit irritating to me. Robbie, what are the fans saying about all of this, right? We're talking about lineups, we're talking about tactics. I think maybe my question is, are you starting to see out there on the interwebs that people are losing patience and faith in Ange?
Yeah, I think pretty much every account that's on my algorithm or that I follow all was, for the most part, I intentionally call my Spurs Twitter accounts to the more positive ones. There are some people that just piss and moan for no reason nonstop, and they're never happy. The people that complain about the tourist fans and, mostly Asian fans at the games, like people like that, I fucking mute, I block, I delete, whatever. But even the good intention, the good souls are really turning, and not no one's angry. Everyone's sad. Like I said, like everyone is defeated. Everyone is deflated. I know we talk about him a lot in the group chat, but Simon Yemain, the Swedish guy, that's like, he's usually great content. Sometimes he's had some takes lately where we've been picking him apart. But even he's saying he's not Ange out yet, but he had like a massive Twitter thread just saying all the things that were Ange's fault and that he did wrong and that were the reason why we lost. So everyone's turning. Again, it's so hard because we still have one more leg. We don't know what can happen. To me, I am only going to be walking slightly back where I am now if we win like 4-0 or 4-1 next week at home. Like if we win 2-1 or whatever and advance on aggregate, what if it's a barely squeak by win, I'm still not in on Ange. Like I'm just like I don't know. We've heard him give the same speech over and over, and at this point it's just like it's never going to change. It doesn't feel like. And I know maybe more patience is required. Maybe this season is just because of all the injuries, whatever. But, he gave a couple quotes that I have pulled up that we can get into later, but just about mentality. And it's like, bro, if you're not going to change the mentality, who is? Like, if it's not your responsibility, whose responsibility is it? I definitely want to talk maybe on another bullet point about Son and Madison and some of the stuff I saw between them yesterday. Because I think that's another thing that's permeating our entire club. Is based on our leaders not being on the same page. So there's no, I don't know. I'm not saying I'm completely hopeless, but to me, the ladder for Ange to climb now is an incredibly steep ladder. He has to win the Europa League. He has to get top 10 in the Premier League. Anything shy of that, I'm going to be very wary of like, I don't think I believe in what he's doing. And that's like almost impossible, those two tasks I just named. So we'll see. But
yeah, you're not
close.
You're not alone for sure. I mean, I think the silver lining, I almost said the beauty. There's no beauty in any of this, right? But the silver lining is that if you're going to win this competition, you're going to stumble along the way. You're going to play 9 matches in knockout fashion. 7 matches in knockout fashion, and you're going to have a blunder. It's unfortunate that potential blunder is the very first match of the knockout rounds, right? But sometimes you just need to get a result. So things could look very different a week from now, right? Next Friday, we could be raving and ranting about a thumping of AZ at home, right? Who knows? But it doesn't look good. And like you said, unless it's convincing, I don't see us getting through the eventual hurdles that are still forthcoming beyond this one, right? We talked about it on the last show. We've got Lazio probably down the pipeline at some point. Next round could be Ajax. I'm not even saying we're getting there, right? We're a long way off from that after yesterday, but there's a lot to do still. And I don't fault anyone for losing faith in Ange. I want to talk about Madison for a second too. You brought up Madison and Sonny both. We were all raving about Madison on the last pod, and rightfully so. But no doubt Madison also is branded as inconsistent, right? And up and down with his play. I was irritated yesterday for many different reasons, but I found myself asking Madison, if you're this guy that we all think you are, you're playing against a far inferior opponent. Just take the fucking game by the scruff of the neck and make something happen, right? If you're the talent that we all believe you are, make something happen for me. And I wasn't seeing any of that from either him or Sonny. Max, what's your take on not Madison in general, but just my idea that maybe Madison didn't show enough of that on-field leadership quality in his play that we would need from him yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't good enough. And that's just the truth, man. They always say with James Madison, you get 3 Madisons over the course of the season: unplayable, unavailable, and unnoticeable. And we got the latter of those 3 last night, and that's just the reality of it. Yeah, man, he just wasn't good enough. I mean, he had a couple moments where he won fouls, had a really nice run to win a free kick on the edge of the box, which culminated in the worst free kick routine that I've ever seen in my entire life. Genuinely, don't know how we had an edge of the box free kick that led to a through ball to the other team, but we did. So shout out to the training staff for cooking up that one. And yeah, but I know Madison's son, like, they're easy target. I I just feel like they kind of get scapegoated a little bit just because they're in that leadership team. And then you look at the third member of that leadership team, and he hasn't played for Spurs in fucking 8 months, and he doesn't even want to. So it's just a disaster all around there. But just I do want to remind fans, like in goals and assists per 90 minutes played, James is still 0.73, which is fucking insane. And Sonny is almost there, 0.68. And that's considerably higher than guys like Brennan Johnson, Dan Kulusevski, even Dom Solanke. So I think we just need to take a step back and remind ourselves that these players, like, although we want them to take the game by the scruff of the neck, and that's a situation where you really want Madison to do something, that we have to keep in mind that they also have teammate like Tell, Johnson.
Yeah.
Like what I know you want to rely on your senior players, but they've produced a lot more this season than other players that I feel like get a little more grievance from the fan base, namely Dejan Kulusevski. Like, I feel like if Kulusevski dropped that Madison performance, no one gives a fuck. Like, it's insane how he's immune to criticism. And that's just a completely different point. But I feel like Madison, because of his personality and how like polarizing, I guess, he is a figure in the club, he gets a lot more grief for like one bad performance. And to be honest, I can't really remember like many bad James Madison performances recently, but you want more from him. He's got to be better. Second leg, he's got to be better. He's got to create something.
Yeah, I think sometimes the Kulu Madison of it all, I think Kulu's work rate buys him a lot of credit in the bank, right? And people do pay attention to those things. I'll just come out and say it. I do not believe Madison has the work rate, especially defensively, that Kulusevski has. And some of that could be tactical.
No, obviously not.
Yeah, you do expect Madison to be more of that or closer to that number 10 than Kulusevski plays as, right? And sometimes that just requires less of an ass defensively. So I know some of it's tactical, but from the fan optic perspective, I understand why Kulu has more credit in the bank. I personally, I know that their goals and assist involvement per 90 is spectacular. I'm one of those like grumpy old men yelling at the clouds type of fans who say stats and all this bullshit are ruining the game and modern managers are ruining the game. Like, just I want to see someone just go out of the field and make an impact. I don't care what their stats tell me, right? So I'm probably less of one to give them credit for those types of things. And I think that kind of bleeds into the conversation about Ange and the strict tactics that he deploys. I don't understand how against AZ Alkmaar, they're not good. I mean, sure, they got through the third round of 32 playoff. They're talented enough to do that, but I just don't understand how Ange doesn't say, U11, just go play football and beat AZ Alkmaar, right? And kind of leave it at that, where our team was much more talented than them. And that's where I just start to draw frustrations with not only Ange, but just the modern game in general, that everything needs to be so perfect. We're not playing American football here, right? We're not drawing up plays. It's not designed to be as structured. It's a beautiful game for a reason, right? Because artists just go out on the field and they play football. And I think we start to see less of that all the time in the modern game. But yeah, I want to talk about Sonny a little bit too. And Chang, I'll come to you for this. I know you've had some hot takes on Sonny in the past or whatever. And I don't even want to say hot takes because I think a lot of people share these takes with you, right? But when we look at Sonny, I understand what Max just said. It's maybe not fair to pinpoint one or two people in these situations. And I agree, but at the same time, I feel strongly that in these moments, in these critical knockout matches, you do expect your best players to show up and perform well. And I think that's where I draw my frustration with Son, and maybe less so than with Madison, because I think, as Max said earlier, Son's tactical, I can't think of a word here, but instructions, we could even say, right, probably hinder him more than Madison's do. But I think Sonny just needs to perform in these bigger matches. What do you think about all of that?
Yeah, I think if you want to be our captain, like if you want to be the club captain, like you gotta show up. Like, I don't give a fuck, bro. Like, Son right now, he's living off legacy. I think his recent performances, bar maybe Ipswich, have been extremely subpar, and they have been for honestly a while now. And going back to Max's point, like where he said Madison and Son are like easily scapegoated. Like, yeah, bro, they're their fucking captains. Like, those are the guys like you need to step up. Like, those are the guys you want to look up to that should be playing their fucking heart out. Instead, there's a clip going around like social media. It's Madison and Son sitting on the bench. They're just Madison's whispering. I think that he's like they're reading his lips. He said something like, oh, we play the same every single game. Like every single game is the same play. Like, yeah, bro, then do fucking something about it, bro. I couldn't even tell he was playing, dude. Like, genuinely, first half, I forgot he was there, except that shit ass free kick. Like, you want to tell me camera's gonna zoom in on his face? He has this like whole like demeanor, like, yeah, I'm gonna stick in top bins, and then he passes it 3 yards to Son. They fuck around with it for a little bit, and then they pass it backwards. Like, dude, I don't get like shoot the fucking ball, bro. I see a million clips of you sticking at top bins in training. Like, do that shit in the fucking game, bro. Why are you trying to be cute with the fucking free kick when we're down 1-0? It's just stupid, bro. If you want to be the captain, if you want to like, this is the shit that like I think Roy Keane like gets on him, bro. Like, yeah, if I'm going in the locker room, I don't see James Madison and be like, oh, yeah, we're going to be fine this game. James Madison is back. When he puts in performances like that, bro, that's fucking sorry. And it's fucking sad that he's whispering on the bench to our other so-called captain when we're losing 1-0 in the Europa League knockouts, bro. This is our last chance at our trophy. And, like, you just put in the worst performance I've ever seen, bro. I can't even tell you're playing, dude. Like, if you want to be the captain, like, if you don't want to be the captain, if you want to gossip on the fucking bench, then give up your armband to someone who actually fucking cares, bro. I'm tired of this shit, man.
But no one cares.
Dude.
None of them care. That's the thing for me. Like, did any, like, I saw this on Twitter. At any point, did you guys feel like we wanted it more than Alkmaar?
No. We lost every loose ball.
No, it was embarrassing, dude. And to me, that comes down to Ange. Like, I don't know. Like, I think Robbie or Chang said this in the group chat. We've seen so many clips of Ange, like when he was coming in, like his like halftime speeches for Australia, firing the guys up. The guys, like, it looks like he couldn't motivate them to make a sandwich out there. Like, I don't even know what the fuck is going on. Like, that's another thing. I don't know if that's also a leadership thing, but the lack of desire to win is just so evident out there. And it's embarrassing. Like Chang said, it's embarrassing.
Well, talking about what Chang said, that or one of you talked about that clip going around social media. I think it was you, Chang, just a second ago, but it kind of makes me start to think that they're losing faith in the manager a little
I agree. Yeah, that's what I got from it.
But here's the thing. That players have lost faith in the last like 4 managers at this club, right? And that's a problem too. I personally think when I look at the wonderful training facility, and yes, our wage structure hinders us, but when we have players making over $100,000 a week to do fuck all, right? And if I'm one of those players, this is my job, right? And I think the majority of fans, if they got paid way more than they were worth and had a wonderful office facility with wonderful perks and all this shit, they'd probably just go to work and fucking hang out too, right? And so I think a lot of this goes into the club and the way that we do things. We finally had a manager in Conte who was ready to fucking roast every single one of those players over the coals, and we fired him. And every fan, I'll even admit myself at times, I was growing irritated with the aura that was surrounding the club through Conte, but I don't fault him, right, at all. And I think we were ready to say, and I say we as fans and the club in general, like, he's too aggressive, he's mean to his players, all this shit, right? But I think that Spurs are going to require someone like that. They're going to require somebody who will stand up to the board, and is definitely a good soldier from what I take with things, right? And I think he's tried to veer away from that good soldier mentality with the press, but he's not. He's a good dude. Andy's a fucking good dude. Like, he's a dude that I would love to have in my inner circle, right? He's somebody that you invite over for dinner for sure. He's a good dude. And sometimes I just wonder if that put my arm around a youngster and help them develop. I don't know if that's the type of manager the Spurs are going to require to get themselves out of this hole that we're constantly in. And Robbie, I'll come to you for this, but is this more of a deeply rooted issue than just Ange Postecoglou at this point?
Yeah, I don't think there's any hesitation, and I think I knew that before Ange was even the manager. I was firmly on Mourinho and Conte's side, still am.
Yeah.
That they said everything that needed to be said. They weren't perfect as managers either. But yeah, 1000%. And yeah, Ange is here to change that mentality or whatever. But again, we're all mad at Ange right now, but we also need to step back and push it up the board again, push it up to the board again. The people who are running this club for 25 years now, it starts there, like they're not making any urgency. They're not doing it. Like, I started thinking about this today of like why players don't care at Tottenham. And I know we've had this conversation before, and it's like, yeah, like it's probably because honestly, we give players like 5, 6, 7-year contracts because we can't give them enough wages for a shorter contract. And so when you come to Spurs, you're like, cool, I'm signed till 2031. Guess I'm just hanging out till then. Doesn't matter what happens. I'm getting paid till 2031. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know. Maybe that's how we get those mid to upper tier people to come here that aren't going to get Liverpool and aren't going to get Madrid and whatever money. It's like, oh, I'll go to Tottenham because I'll get paid for 6 years no matter what happens.
Yeah.
So maybe that's part of it. I don't know. But yeah, no, I just think I agree with everything Ange says with, again, with his speeches of like, we need to change this mentality. We need to play the same every time. We need to think the same way every time. I've been bought in on that 1000% from day one since he started, but he's had to say that 25 times now after we've lost a game that we needed to win and we've turned over half this roster. When is it going to change? Like, I'm getting weary. And again, yeah, I'm not going to compare him to Arteta, but he got, 3 years, but he won a trophy too, right? He didn't win a trophy. And Arsenal was probably in a better position roster wise his first year than Tottenham was when,
I don't know. That team was really bad.
But it's just like, yo, when is it going to happen? Like, it's just, I don't see this ever happening. I also went down a rabbit hole this morning thinking about, hey, remember the last time we were in the round of 16 in Europe and we lost 1-0 away to a team wearing red? And I was just like, if we're not convinced Tottenham is a simulation at this point of just repeating the same bullshit over and over and over, like, I don't know what other proof we need that I'm losing faith in the club as a whole. Like, it's never going to happen. Like, I'm starting to believe it is never going to happen. And that's the worst place to be. Like, I'm not Ange. Again, I agree with what Scott said. I love Ange. I guarantee you, whatever Ange goes next, he's going to be a great manager. Like, I don't doubt that for a second. I think the club is poison, and it's starting to just really. I've almost walked away from Tottenham Hotspur 2 other off seasons in the last 5 years, and I'm there again. And I hate that I'm there again. That it's just like, this is never going to change. So it's like I'm losing it.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off, but I agree. I mean, one of the things that I think about all the time is back in 15, 16, 17, 2015, 16, 17, right? I truly believe that in the near future, maybe the next season, I'd finally see us lift a trophy, right? And I thought it could even have been the Premier League. And from there, we just absolutely nosedive as an organization. I do feel like it's more on the organization than Ange himself. Ange definitely is not without blame. But at the same time, if you look at it, like, let's look at yesterday's lineup, for example. You've got Spence, who's quite new. Spence is fucking talented, don't get me wrong, but he's quite new to playing.
He's good.
He's super good, man, but he's also quite new to playing at this level consistently week in, week out, right? You've got Archie Gray, who's 18. You've got Bergvall, who's 18. You've got Tell, who's 19 and just came from Germany. Just even Johnson is still fairly young, right? Going away in Europe can be challenging for younger players, and we've stacked our team with teenagers, and we spent crazy amounts of money on teenagers, and that's all well and good, but there's no balance with players who are ready to make an impact. Danzo, for example, 27 years old, dude's a fucking baller. Like, I'm convinced that we have signed a very talented center back in Danzo, right? And that's the kind of thing you can do when you bring in guys who are in their prime. I truly believe Danzo could step in and fill Romero's role if Romero leaves pretty easily, right? And him and Van de Ven make a really solid pairing. So that's a good signing there. Solanke, same thing. Good signing. He's in his prime. We just haven't done enough of that. And I think, again, part of this issue that Robbie's talking about is that we've reactively built our squad. And Robbie, I think you shared this from a Golden Guest podcast months ago, right? That we've built our squad in a manner that's very reactive to like what the media and what everybody's saying about Tottenham. We're trying to like mimic Brighton, right? Is maybe the idea here. And that's all well and good, but we're also competing for honors that Brighton is just frankly not competing for and won't be competing for, right? So there has to be a balance. And I think that the mismanagement of that balance is a big part of our issue here. Yesterday,
I think that's true, but also like, can you say that when Archie Gray and Bergvall are best players? I feel like that's like,
I don't think Bergvall was great yesterday for what it's worth.
but he's been like, I'd say one of our best players for the past month, Archie Gray for the past 3 months. So I feel like you can't even blame them. I mean, can't even blame the board for signing play. Like these are 18-year-olds that are not only going to be insane in 3 years, but also really good right now. And I just want to make the comparison to Conte. We went away to the San Siro against AC Milan in the Champions League knockouts. The lineup, I have it here. Forster, Romero, Dyer, Longley, Emerson, Sarr, Skip, Perisic, Kulusevski, Kane, Son. With 0-1 loss, and the fans were rioting. Against AC Milan at the San Siro. 0-1 loss against AZ Alkmaar with a squad 2 times as good as that one against a squad 2 times worse than the one he played. It's fucking absurd. It's absurd. I'm sorry. Like when you actually look at it, the board have backed Ange. Like I know it's been frustrating. The board have spent the money on Ange that Conte, Mourinho, Poch never got. They never got it. Like that squad is actually an abomination that we put that out in the UCL knockout. And the squad yesterday, yeah, it has holes. Yeah, it's super young. But I think that the thing that we all keep coming back to is how many times this season are we going to lose to a squad that is worse than the one we put out? And then when that happens, it's squarely on the manager for me. And that's why I've just lost complete faith in him. There's no way that we can get through a knockout stage, 3 rounds, without having another stinker and probably like 3 more stinkers if we even get the opportunity to play that many games. And I just want to kick it back to what Robbie said. Ange has to win the Europa and finish top 10. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about finishing top 10 in the league. Like, this is embarrassing. It's frankly an embarrassing conversation for Tottenham podcast to be having, finishing top 10. And for that, I just think I can't do it. I can't do it with Ange. I think regardless, I mean, unless we win Europa, it's not going to work here. Like he may be a good manager elsewhere, but for Tottenham, I think it's over. I think it's over.
Yeah. What do you guys think about that, Robbie, Chang?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think like if that's our bar, like finishing top 10, like what are we doing, bro? Like we're genuinely losing the club. Like we're losing our identity. And honestly, like I think going back to the point about Bergvall and Gray, I think like yeah, Bergvall scored like a horrible own goal, like genuinely terrible. But nobody is setting for it because he picked his head back up and he at least like played the game, right? And you have senior players like Madison, like some, like okay, yeah, maybe I am scapegoating them, but bro, like the mentality just isn't there. Like you're telling, like they're just prima donnas, bro. Like they just need Ange to hold their hand. Like I think like there's definitely like something between Ange and Madison where it's just like, bro. If you don't like your manager, I don't give a fuck, bro. You get paid like over 100,000 a week. Like if you're not playing for the manager, like play for the badge, play for yourself at this point. Like earn yourself a transfer out or some shit, bro. Don't just
England.
fucking, like exactly like work your way back into the international squad, dude. Like you got dropped for the World Cup. Like that's fucking embarrassing, dude. Like do it for yourself at some point. Like, yeah, I go to my like sometimes I go to my minimum wage job. I don't like my boss. I slack off, bro. I get paid minimum wage, dude. Like, you don't get to do that. Like, they're living their dream fucking life out there, and you're telling me you can't even play like 90 minutes for the entire club, bro? Like, please, bro. It's actually frustrating, man. Why is like an 18-year-old scored an own goal, bro, in the knockout stage to lose 1-0, and he's like still trying to play the game at least.
Yeah.
It's just depressing, dude. It's like the mentality is poison. I think like I don't want to be an old head and be like, oh yeah, this new generation of players, they're just like dramatic, they're like entitled, but they are, bro. They are to a certain extent. Like no one will lower their head and go to the fucking war anymore, dude. It's actually oh my God. James Madison spent more time replying to fans in his Instagram comments than actually playing the game, dude. I can't anymore.
Madison, for example, is relegated at Leicester, and he's without a doubt the best player on that team. They're on pitch leader, right? He's relegated, and he falls 20 places upwards to Tottenham Hotspur, we can say. So that may breed complacency, right? Like I quote unquote failed, and now I'm competing for major honors, right? And not that Leicester, I mean, shit, Leicester's won the Premier League. We've never done that, right? But still, I think you guys to take the point that I'm trying to make here is that those types of things are going to breed complacency. Right now, Madison, the England point's great. Madison, Ethan Nwaneri, I'm taking 17-year-old Nwaneri.
I agree.
No, dude. No, I'm not. No, that's just not.
Madison right now.
That's just wrong, though. That's just wrong.
It's gonna happen, dude. Just watch.
I don't care if if it happens, whatever, dude. But Madison is 20 times the player Ethan Nwaneri is. I understand where you guys are coming from with Madison. He's our best player, dude. Like, I know he needs to play better.
Play like it, bro.
He's our best player. He had one bad game.
Bro, playing like that is not our best player, dude.
He is, though. He is our best player. Like, if I'm pinning my hopes on one fucking player on our team, it's Madison, dude. It's Madison over anyone else. It's 100% Madison.
I mean, I'm saying this as a joke, but I was thinking about this earlier of like the goals per minute or whatever your stat was of like, yeah, James Madison plays 55 minutes a game for 28 games a year. Like, of course he's going to have great, like he doesn't have to put in a full shift. He doesn't have to put in a full season. He doesn't have to put in a full game. Like he just literally never makes it through.
I mean, I can do counting stats too. He has the same amount of goals as Kulusevski and Son in significantly less minutes. I just think he's our best player. Like, and I think that if we are going to do something, it's going to be with James Madison. And if they really don't believe in him, then we can cash out on him. But it's like, I understand that he has to be better in games like this. And I understand that his mentality maybe isn't up for it, but that's kind of what you sign up for when you get like a really good player that was like coveted by a lot of clubs. That wasn't like a homegrown, like 18-year-old. Obviously he has an ego that needs to be fixed. But I just think from a footballing standpoint, he's our best player. Like he's the best player that we have at Tottenham. And I think that Romero, Van de Ven, they have a case, but they don't even fucking play. Like for as much shit as Madison gets, at least he's playing on the field. Like we know Christian Romero's been healthy for 2 weeks and he doesn't even want to play, dude.
Well, here's the thing. Romero and Van de Ven are definitely our two most talented players when you go pound for pound at their position. But those positions are going to keep you in a game. They're not going to win you a game, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And that's where Madison maybe is highlighted more. But I think I agree with you. I think if I had to pick one player who can single-handedly win a game for you, it's Madison.
Or maybe Solanke. I might give Solanke that too.
Yeah, maybe. But with Madison, I agree with you. But then I would say, why doesn't he do that consistently? And then my second point would be, I think he's only that player because the rest of the squad isn't good enough. Like Kulusevski is a very talented footballer, but he's not going to single-handedly win you a match. That might be a problem. Solanke, good striker. I don't think he's going to single-handedly win you a match. He's the closest. Son, same thing.
Johnson, he used to be able to. Son, not anymore.
For sure. Yeah. Not right now, right? In current form. Johnson, not there.
Fuck no.
Bear, too young. Tell, way too young. Bergvall, too young. And again, I love the depth that we're building throughout the youth ranks, we could say. But they're not gonna be able to step up and win you matches at this point in their career. And maybe that's on Ange, and maybe that's on the player development team and Johan Long and etc. Maybe we just need to bring Papa Fabio Paratici back, man. Let that dude cook. And I think he's kind of still hanging around. He's like that guy that just shows up to your high school but doesn't actually go to your high school, right? He's like one of those guys. But yeah, anyways, I don't know where all of it falls, but the fact that I think the fact that Madison is quote unquote our biggest game changer is maybe says more about our problems than it does about James Madison.
Well, I was going to say, I'm going to step in here because we're completely ignoring who, honestly, and this is the state of the things, who is our best player. Think about if you had to think of Tottenham's roster, who would start on any other Premier League team or a lot of other Premier League teams? Who would another team actually want to buy? We're talking about Guglielmo Vicario, honestly. Like, I think Vicario is our best player, and I'm not happy about that. Like, he would start for probably 17 other Premier League teams. I don't think you could say that about James Madison. I don't think he would start for 17 other Premier League teams. I also think, and we can get to this, I don't know if you guys saw the whole Vicario yelling at fans situation yesterday, which was not what was happening. He wears the captain's armband more often than not now. I think if Ange is going to stick around, we need Vicario to be the captain of the team and someone that's going to scream at everybody because he's the only person who seems to give a shit from that regard of like yelling, getting in people's faces. I don't know if you saw him like pushing people on the pitch yesterday, several times pushing Tottenham players, saying like, get over there, go do that, go whatever. Like, yes, it's, he missed a ton of games because he got hurt this year. But like, honestly, if you're going to make me stand up and argue, I think Vicario is the best player on Tottenham's roster.
He's the only one who picked up Bergvall after the own goal. I don't know if you guys caught that. I was watching it at that point, right? And he went right over to Bergvall, grabbed him by the head, and actually like aggressively like threw Bergvall's head. But he was saying like, "Come on, dude, pick your shit up. Let's go, shake it off. Let's go win a football match." I agree with you. I think Vicario is the most natural leader that we have on the field. Like, this may be old school, but I don't think a captain is like wrap your arms around, hey guys, I think a captain is somebody who will frankly walk up to somebody and hit him in the mouth in the dressing room if that's required, right? It's that's a captain for me, and Sonny ain't fucking doing that. I promise you that. And again, I'm not saying Son's a poor leader, but at this point in time, I think our leader has to be somebody who's willing to hold people more accountable because we frankly are shit half the time and it's not good enough. And so we've kind of gone off the rails here. We have no agenda today. We're talking about all kinds of stuff.
And the sad part is I just think like throughout this entire conversation, like Scott mentioned earlier, like the club has kind of taken a nosedive since then. I mean, it's since we sacked Poch, if we're being 100%. Honest. And then like we're like, like X factors, like Son is aged, like we don't really have like a guy anymore. And we sold Harry Kane. Like we sold Harry Kane 2 years ago. And like, that's all I can think about right now is that we sacked Poch and we sold our best ever player in club history. And this is kind of what we get. I feel like this is what we get because of that. Like it's almost impossible to like replicate a player like Kane. And in the transfer market, I'd say it is impossible unless we're signing him again next year. So, I mean, I understand. Madison being our biggest game changer is a problem because of his inconsistencies. But it's just brutal, man. Like like sacking Poch, selling Kane, and now we're fighting to be top half. It's sad. And I think we could get Poch back. And I genuinely think we could get Poch back.
If I truly believe if you don't sack Poch, the season we sacked him, everyone was like, "Oh, if you take the last 38 games, it's relegation." That's not how this season works, right? It's
Arsenal stat.
Yeah, exactly. And so,
well, everyone on this chat has said that about Ange like 6 times. So I'm just going to say that.
Because Ange is shit, dude. He's a
since
shit
January
manager.
1st, 2024. Like that's last season. It doesn't,
Exactly. And last fall, like if Ange didn't have those 10 games last fall, would any of us even remotely have a sliver of Ange in?
Dude, Chang and I were talking about that before we recorded that. If without those first 10 matches, Ange would have been sacked months ago.
Like, he would have been sacked a year ago, dude.
Exactly.
It's actually.
I mean, we were really poor after those first 10 matches last season. So
I was going to say, I have a question that's been ruminating on my mind since we started recording. I'm curious. I don't have an answer to this, but thinking about, and I totally agree with what Max said, saying like the board has backed Ange, like we've spent a ton of money. I like almost every player we've signed for the most part. But when you think about Ange's shortcomings as a manager, what Ange needs from a player, I kind of am starting to realize I think a lot of the people we've signed are great Tottenham signings. They are great style of football. Our future is bright, but are they the people Ange from a mentality standpoint needs? Like Ange, it seems to me Ange needs 25 Vicarios on the team. Like he's the kind of guy that doesn't like to overmanage. He likes to sit back and let the team kind of come together, build around each other. And I don't think any of our guys do that other than Vicario, other than Son, but Son's not like, again, Son is so friendly, hugging players for 45 seconds, like super awkward stuff, honestly. Like we need more dogs like Vicario. We need like 7 Vicarios on this team. And then let Ange, we need some more people like that come in and take over, because none of our guys are. And I hate to say this, but it's like, yeah, we're building an incredible roster for the next manager who maybe doesn't need that. Maybe we need a manager who's the guy screaming all the time. Maybe we need a Conte. Maybe we need a Mourinho. I don't know. Like, but we have a great collection of players. I'm just not sure. And, even if he likes these players, it sounds like he liked all of these players we signed. None of them have this killer mentality from what I can tell. And some of them are too young to have it. Maybe Bergvall will have it in a couple of years, or he's starting to show signs that he could have this killer mentality. Archie Gray, still unsure. He's so young and so innocent.
I think
he just seems too nice.
He
seems
he's
too
so
nice to me.
back.
But yeah, maybe I make this joke with hockey too. I firmly believe in the need of scary, like Scandinavian players or scary Europeans. You need a guy with a dark visor that just rips shots top corner, doesn't ever pass the puck to anybody. Like we need some of those killers on our team. And maybe that's not what Ange has been given. Like, obviously we've gotten all these young moldable players, but if our leaders are Son, who is soft, Madison, who's soft, we're not going to mold these young guys to be these killer, angry, whatever type players. And I'm not saying we need every single player, but we certainly need more than one to make any of this work. So maybe is Johnny Cardoso too nice? Maybe we need
more South Americans. That's what it sounds like to me.
Dude, I was gonna say Bentancur is the other guy who I think will rip somebody's head off if it's required, right?
Too bad he's so shit that if he yells at someone, they're like, "I'm better than you, mate." Like
he was a centimeter away from getting a double yellow. He was like spitting in that ref's face.
Oh yeah,
yesterday.
and
like
good point. He's suspended
that was terrifying.
For the next leg. So congrats, man.
Yeah.
Suspended for the next leg. Bentancur.
We need more dirt bags. I say that about any sports team, but we need more dirt bags on this squad. The Kraken need more dirt bags. Everybody needs a couple of guys that are rubbing the smelly glove in the face. Richarlison can be that, but he's never healthy. So
lucky me and Chang on UW Club though.
Yeah.
We just be getting so many yellow cards.
But yeah. Circling back to my topic sentence of like, I don't know, are these players what Ange needs? And it's not anybody's fault other than the style of what Ange wants to bring is just like, I don't know if it works at a huge club like that, because you can get a lot of dirt bags at Celtic. You can get a lot of dirt bags at Marino or whatever in Tokyo or wherever he coached. Like when you're at the Premier League, you're going to get all different types of people. And as a manager, you kind of need to take more ownership of it. And I don't think he has. And I think that's the crux of his entire problem is he's letting the locker room lead themselves. And he comes in at the poignant moments to give a well-pointed criticism, a well-inspired whatever. But our locker room's not up to the task. So we need a lot more of that.
Yeah. I know Chang's got to hop off. So Chang, I have a question right before you hop off. If you had to appoint a new manager tomorrow for Tottenham Hotspur, who you got?
Who's available or
out of who's available?
Dude, honestly, I haven't been looking at the list, but I think maybe dude, the list sucks, bro. I think Allegri is the only name I remember. I know we could go after Thomas Frank or Iraola, but dude, I don't know. It's not even a manager issue anymore. It's just mentality, I think, over anything. We've tried if you genuinely, if you look at it, we've tried the top end managers, Jose, Conte. We've tried the new kid on the block. We've tried Ange, Ange, and like it's just not working. Like what do we need at this point? And to build off what Robbie said, I think we've tried like give captaincy to the best players in the squad, and it's not working. I think give it to the guys that'll die for this badge. They'll play their hearts out. I think it just needs a change, I think. And yeah, but I gotta hop off. I'll leave you guys to it, and thank you for having me again.
Peace out, Chang.
If we right now, if I were given full charge of the locker room, I'm going Vicario, Kulu, Ben Davis. Those are my leadership right there. Like that's who I put in. I don't care how good or bad Davis is. He gives a shit.
It's a good shot, man.
I back Ben Davies. I agree. I'd love Vicario as captain. I think he's the best we got.
Yeah,
I think I'm maybe just showing my bias here, but I think Bergvall has the chance in a couple years. But I think his early returns are showing that he plays for this team, he plays for this club. He wears, he has messed up, and it has affected him greatly. I think back to the Dragusin red card where Bergvall was crying because he got pulled after 8 minutes. Like that was his first game to play.
Yeah.
Like I think Bergvall could be a leadership position maybe 5 years down the road. But we need someone to be mentoring him with that killer mentality also. Like, again, I joke about it, but like there are so many clips and footages of Son to me being weird. Like just hugging players for like him and Archie Gray hug way too much, if I'm going to be honest with you. Like it's just weird. And I'm just like, dude, we need someone that's like telling guys, you got to play better. Like Son can say in the interviews all he wants. We weren't enough. We didn't do good enough. But he doesn't seem to be backing it up or doing anything to change it for the team. I mean, I'm not blaming Son personally. I know Son has given some great shifts this year, but I don't see Son going out there and inspiring confidence in anybody on the team. Maybe that's something we just don't see from a public perspective, but he doesn't seem to be actually carrying the load of like, hey, someone needs to change something. He's just saying somebody does need to change something.
Yeah. The thing with like, is Vicario, like, does he speak English though? Like, because I know he does.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, bet.
He's been doing a lot. He's been doing a lot more content for Spurs this year, where he talks and does interviews. But yeah, I think he was learning English last year, but I think he's in a good spot now.
You always need more Italians, though. I think we build around Vicario. We get an Italian manager in. That's all we need. All jokes aside, though, Max's point about Pochettino too. Ironically, if you look at the squad that we have, Pochettino is a tailor-made manager for all the youth and all the talent that we have that's young. I mean, when we went toe-to-toe for the Premier League twice in a row, very young squad, especially the year Leicester won the title. And I think we didn't win the title because of how young we were, right? But we were like consistently the youngest team in the Premier League each and every week that year. And Poch is very well known for getting a team to play above their ability, right, and find their own potential. So I really think if we wouldn't have sacked Poch and just kept steady, and maybe we would have finished 7th or 8th that season. But if we would have kept building under him, I think things would be a lot different now, and we maybe even would have won a Premier League, and Kane probably would still be at the club. So that's a heavy thing to say and a lot of maybes, but
I just think we're at the stage from a club evolution that like we still haven't learned our lessons. Like we've made so many different changes, and as a club, whoever's in charge of these decisions still hasn't found any learnings that we can action on. Because right, we talk about, we went for these big managers, we didn't back them, we didn't give Mourinho anybody, we didn't give Conte anybody. We didn't give Nuno patience. Not that I'm a Nuno stan by any means. We're giving Ange patience, but then we're also just like we're giving him young players. But then like when this January window came, we didn't do shit. Like we signed people at the last minute who, again, I don't necessarily dislike who we signed, but we knew in November we needed to sign somebody on January 1st. We needed like 3 players in January 1st, and we didn't do that. And it's just like, when are we ever going to learn from all these data points that we have? Like, again, I'm not saying I wouldn't want Poch back. I just firmly believe that nobody ever catches lightning in a bottle twice. And so he's going to be set up to fail from the beginning because everyone's like, oh my God, our savior's here. And then we'll be mid-table 6 months in and people will be like, sack Pochettino, and we'll be right back where we were. but I don't think anybody's learned anything. Like there's nobody's learned from our mistakes. We're just throwing darts every summer, and it's every 18 months now, new manager, new whatever. I don't think we've actually learned anything, and that's what's really the most disheartening, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the tough part is I think for everyone who's thinking maybe it's time to sack Ange, I assume the majority of them would prefer to sack the entire squad and rebuild with a better squad. That's not possible, which leads to maybe a new manager can get things rolling for us again. And I would also say that pretty much every team cycles through managers in the fashion that we do. It's just very few teams are competing for the things that we're expecting to be able to compete for, right? And so it's highlighted for us as fans. And for the footballing world, there's just a severe lack of patience. But the teams that have patience tend to do well with that patience. And granted, it's patience coupled with other things. And you can talk about City. They took a few years to get to the point where they won 4 titles in a row. Arsenal aren't going to win the league, but it took a little bit before they were the only ones really competing with City or Liverpool this season, right? And not that they're even competing, but you guys get the point. There's a balance between patience and talent and all of that. But I don't know. I understand why we're all losing faith and patience. But I would also say that we sack Ange and bring somebody else, and I don't expect things to be much different next season at all. And I think that says more about the club than Ange.
Like, I think the only thing we can hope for is just stability. And stability would mean probably finishing 6th every year. Like, if we bring in Thomas Frank or we bring in Iraola, like we'll beat the teams we're supposed to beat. We'll lose to the teams we're supposed to lose to, and we'll finish 6th every year. That's probably the best it's going to get. Like, and that's why you do have to take those swings on these names, on these big names, these small names, these hot names, whatever. But again, I in the modern Premier League, in the club that we are, with the money that we spend, the way that we spend it, we're never going to be number one. We're never going to win the Premier League. We're just not, unless we're going to spend 200 million more every summer. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, the way that we operate is in a manner that Champions League is a wonderful achievement. And I remember a time where all I wanted was Champions League, and I would have chewed anybody's arm off for a chance to play in the Champions League. And then we got there, right? And as human beings, we want more. That's kind of how it works, right? So, but I agree with you. I think the way that the club operates, qualifying for the Champions League is the greatest achievement that we can hope to consistently compete for.
Yeah, and I know we joked about it in the group chat, but we're talking a lot like the Mariners GM guy, president of baseball operations, of like, as long as you win 54% of your games, you'll probably be in the playoffs. And once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. So, just shoot for 54%. And that's kind of what it feels like at Tottenham, is we're not shooting for 90%. We're shooting for 54%. And as long as we're in the Champions League, anything can happen. And it almost did that one year. That was almost exactly proof in the pudding that anything can happen. But we're not going to compete with City. We're not going to compete with Madrid. We're not going to compete with Bayern, teams that are spending infinitely more. And again, I know we are spending a lot, but it has to do with who you're spending it on. People that are ready to play now, people that are ready to step in right now. So yeah, I mean, again, I think Tottenham can win a Champions League someday in the history of our universe, but as of right now, 4th, 5th place is probably our ceiling for many years until ownership changes or strategy changes. So it's just not compelling enough in some ways, but that's kind of where we're at, I think.
I've been saying for a while we should just liquidate the club and then apply for an MLS expansion franchise, and then we just got to fucking make the playoffs, and anything can happen, which would be wonderful. Tottenham would always make the playoffs. I mean, actually, maybe not this season, right? But or maybe we just petition for the Premier League to introduce playoffs. That would be fantastic for a club like Tottenham. And I granted, when it comes to knockout competition, we're for sure going to drop an egg and just play like shit, but at least we'll have the opportunity.
Iowa City Hotspur coming your way soon.
Let's fucking go. I love that. All right. Well, we've talked a lot about Alkmaar. Got another big one next week against them. This coming weekend, I believe we have Bournemouth, if I'm not mistaken. That's going to be a tough one. I think they're a very good side. I think they're actually within within a shot of saying they could qualify for Champions League. They're 3 points off Champions League right now.
Yeah.
Just playing some really good football. Tyler Adams has been fantastic, without a doubt. They've got Dean Huijsen, I believe would be the pronunciation, that is wanted by every major club in Europe right now, and Juventus was absolutely asinine to let go. They're stacked from back to front, and I'm fearful. We'll say that, right? What do you guys anticipate happening on Sunday?
I mean, Ange already said that, he rested players 8 days before losing to Alkmaar. So why not just play the U21s in this game if we don't give a fuck about the league? I honestly don't care, to be honest.
Yeah.
I had moments of excitedness thinking, oh, Dom Solanke revenge game, and now he's definitely not even playing. So I don't know what happened to him. I don't think it was a re-injury. It looked like he just got kneed in the back really hard or something. But
they said it's just a knock, but there's no way.
He's not playing on Sunday. They're saving him for next Thursday. I don't know. Best case scenario, 2-1 Spurs. What do I expect? Probably 3-2 or 3-1 Bournemouth is kind of what I'm expecting.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I'm expecting a loss in this one. I think we'll probably get played off the park. I think we'll be outmanaged by Uriola, who I rate very highly. Actually, I think he's a very, very talented tactician and seems to be a great man manager too. Tyler Adams speaks very highly of him, and he's wanted by a lot of big clubs for a reason. So I expect a tough one. And then Thursday next week, granted it's at home. Do either of you guys think we can get through this tie?
Yeah, and I think we will, and I think that's going to annoy me even more.
Yeah,
somehow, because people are going to be back on the train, but I just don't think it's sustainable. But I think we'll win next Thursday.
Well, it's interesting when you get to a point where you're maybe ready to see a change at the manager position. Winning matches that you don't deserve to win can be frustrating, right? In the sense that you're kind of prolonging the inevitable. Now, if we go on to win the Europa League, who knows? But I at this point think that we will get through. And like you, Max, I will be very concerned with what comes after getting through this tie. Robbie, where are you at?
Yeah, I think, again, I'll stick to what I said earlier of it needs to be convincing. I just don't think it will be, but I do think we can win. I think it's going to be by the skin of our teeth. But if I have any faith of anything, it needs to be 4-1 aggregate, or we need to dominantly win the second leg. But I think we squeak by 1 goal, or maybe it has to go to pens or added time or whatever the tie break is on aggregate. I don't know what the new rule is. I might be confusing it with Carabao and the other.
There's just no away goal. There's no away goal, so it's just normal aggregate. So if it's 3-3, then.
But if we're winning 2-1 at the end of 90 minutes, do we go to a 30-minute added time, or do we go to pens? Okay,
30-minute extra time.
Yeah, and then pens if nothing's resolved there.
Yeah.
I think again, I came into the first leg being we better win this game. But yeah, I think it's going to be exactly what we expect. It's going to be a frustrating, barely win situation. Who won against Ajax and the other leg?
Frankfurt won 2-1.
2-1 or something.
Yes. But I'll actually go through because some of these were interesting. The one that pissed me off, I said it in the group chat. Lazio had 9 men and won away. They had 9 fucking men. That's a team that's going to win this competition, dude. Yeah. We can't even win with 11 men.
Same thing in the Champions League. I called that out, that Liverpool had a 0.25 XG and PSG had a 4, and Liverpool won 1-0. And then Barcelona went down to 10 men with 8 minutes into the game, and they won 1-0. Yep. We've never done anything like that, other than, I guess we did it against whatever Ferencváros or whoever meaningless team.
Yeah.
But that doesn't count.
Yeah, and that's because we don't have that mentality that many clubs do, where winning is all that matters, right? We literally, as a club, and I'm not coming at anyone when I say this, but we as a club feel that performance is more important than results. It's like in our DNA.
I agree. I
Honest
totally
is
agree.
there, right? To dare is to do. But that's why so people were just foaming at the mouth to sack Mourinho and Conte because the performances weren't attractive enough. We as a club value how we look more than what happens on the scoreboard. And then we turn around and say that the club doesn't have a winning mentality. Well, maybe we need to look in the mirror as to why that could be,
Look
right?
at fucking Arsenal, dude. They win every game off a corner kick.
Mhm.
Chelsea, dude, we've watched Chelsea for a decade play terrorist ball, win Champions Leagues, win Premier Leagues. They had Mourinho, Ancelotti,
Mhm.
Tuchel. Like, all these managers are pragmatic, and they
Mhm.
just win Champions Leagues over and over again.
Yeah.
We're just too frustrated with it. And I think the part that's most annoying is when we're in like a situation like this. And like Robbie said earlier, at this point, everyone's like pretty much like either on edge or done with like this whole project right now. But before, it was like we were still in the mentality that like, oh, we lost, but we played well. Like whenever I heard that, like that just like, I don't know, man. It's like we're not even competitive. Like it's like we don't have the competitive spirit. Like we don't want to win that enough, and it's just strange.
Dude,
But yeah, I also like Olympiacos lost 3-0, which was surprising. Frankfurt's up 2-1. Roma 2-1 over Atletico Bilbao, which
big.
I thought was the favorite, to be honest, to make it from that side.
Same.
So they're up 2-1. Rangers as predicted, Lyon as predicted, and then Sociedad and United drew. So United, all the cards in their hand, going back to Old Trafford. So we'll see what happens. I was gonna say something else. Oh, lineups for this weekend. Like, why not just have Odebear and Moore start on the wing? Like,
Agreed.
I don't know. Like, why not just do it?
Odebear, Tell, and more. Yeah. Also, Mikey Moore not playing in this match, I think, was criminal. To be completely honest, we never talked about that, but
what is going on with that, dude?
Yeah,
there's got to be something. Robbie said it last show. Like, there's got to be something we don't know, because if there's not, then I'm just lost, because everyone on Twitter was saying it. We were saying it. He was literally the best. We said it in the last show in the preview. He was the best player we had against Alkmaar the first time. And we were like, he's got to like feature in this game. Like, he was so good against them last time. Nope. Crickets. Odebear comes on. Scarlett comes on, although Scarlett was like forced on. But it's just like, how many guys are ahead of him in the pecking order? And people are making the good point. If we bought Mikey Moore from the championship for 45 million rather than Odebear, who's like a French like winger, would he be playing over Odebear if Odebear was the homegrown one and they were the exact same profiles? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I just feel like Mikey, like he deserves a shot. And if it's like some underlying thing like Robbie thinks, then yeah, we don't know. But it's either that or Ange just doesn't rate him. And I have a hard time believing Ange doesn't rate him.
I personally think Ange is just protecting a 17-year-old, which I'm fed up with at this point.
In 1 year, like you said, dude,
exactly.
Look at him.
Imagine if Michael Owen is protected. Imagine if Wayne Rooney is protected. Imagine if Lamine Yamal is protected, right?
Delhi.
These guys change the trajectory of football, of football clubs, but the sport in general. And just imagine if they had to be protected because they're 17. That's where that's another thing that I just think Ange is like, he's too much of like a, I'm gonna put the well-being of everyone around me at the utmost priority, which is, from like a personal standpoint, I think it's fucking fantastic. Like, I'm all about mental well-being,
empathy
and taking care of other people and being there for other people. But this is professional football. I mean, there's a ruthlessness.
He's just an empath.
Yeah, for sure. And that's great. I value empaths drastically. But again, professional sports are ruthless. Like this, they are. People get their fucking heads chopped off. and they're cut down to their knees, and they're just made to feel, and I don't think this is okay, but like part of being a professional athlete is going to be dealing with times where you're made to feel less than, and that's just how it works. And again, I'm not advocating for these things. I never, ever would in my life. But I think at times we as a club are going to need somebody who is willing to embrace that if we want to continue to improve, because just the mediocrity that we've seen for season over season over season is just not going to work.
And I think we're all still waiting for the game where Ange like has that like ace up his sleeve, whether it's Mikey Moore or he puts like all his chips, he pushes all his chips to the middle of the table, puts out like a crazy lineup or something, crazy attacking, whatever it may be, just something, because it's like every big game we play, we get let down repeatedly. And I personally thought, I was like, Liverpool, Anfield away, we're up 1-0. Let's fucking go. Like, Ange, this is your game. Like, just play every possible card you can to get us over the line. And we got absolutely destroyed. And it was just like, does he have that? Like, does he have like that moment in him that like where he can motivate the guys or make a crazy tactical switch that really changes not just the game, but the season? And it's just the same old performances like recycled over and over again. And that's what matters with staying on the bench. Like, we play the same way every game. And I know he's involved in that, so he's not blameless at all. But I think all of us fans could relate to exactly what he was saying in that moment.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to what you said earlier in the show, Max, that there's actually kind of across all of football right now, there's this emphasis on managers coming in and saying, like, I have a style, I'm going to stick to that. I'm going to show the world that, like, I've got this wonderful tactical approach to the game, rather than 15 years ago where a manager would come in, assess their squad, and say, this is the way that we need to play based on what's available to me. So it's not just an Ange thing, which I agree with you wholeheartedly. Ange is not doing enough of that. I don't think many coaches across the footballing world are doing enough of that, right? I think maybe like Carlo Ancelotti is kind of the last of a dying breed in that sense.
He's so elite at it.
I think he's the best manager on the planet. I know people want to talk about Pep, but I think Ancelotti is still clear.
Like currently or like all time? Like,
I think currently, even honestly. Okay. And I put that down to his ability to adapt. I think Pep's fantastic, and I think Pep has revolutionized the game. But if you gave Pep a squad full of players who aren't capable of playing his brand of football, be interesting to see what happens. And we've kind of started to see that this season, right? So, yeah.
Anyway. He lost one player, and it all fell apart.
Exactly. And honestly, he can go buy whoever he needs to continue to form the squad that he needs. And we all know that. Not that it's all about money. He's a very good manager, but I just think that the point of all of this is we need to see more managers who are willing to change their approach based on what's available to them, because I think, like Max said earlier, it's kind of square pegs in a round hole right now. I think personally for me, as if I were a manager and it was all chaos and things weren't going well, I would just strip it all the way back to very simple, like 4-4-2 football and kind of build off of that, right? Just honestly go all the way back and say, how do we figure out how to actually play with what we have available? And frankly, you could invert your fullbacks and keep your wide midfielders on the touchline and
Solanke, Scarlett up top, Poro right mid, park the bus, everyone else whipping crosses the entire game.
We'll be fine with that, and maybe what's required to win a Europa League title.
But yeah, for lineup on Sunday, I think it, like, we gotta play Van de Ven and Romero. If there's ever this is what we said we were like, why the fuck are they playing against Chelsea and Elfsborg? Like, we need to save them for like a Liverpool or like this game right here. So I think that it's going to be Gray and Danzo at the weekend. If you want to rest Spence or Poro, whatever, it's going to be like some combination there. I assume Bentancur is playing. He can't play against Alkmaar. And then I'd like to rest Bergvall. I think Sar hasn't played in so long. So give Sar a shot. 10. I guess it has to be Madison. And then like I'd go, like we said earlier, Odebear, Moore, Tell, or fuck it, Scarlet. Like I don't care. Tell's been so shit.
I'm on the Scarlet train. We need to see what he is. Is he good or is he not? Let's figure it out.
I think he's better at holding it up than Tell if that's the way Ange wants to play. So whatever, dude. I don't give a fuck what they do, to be honest. But just like get some real rotation, and then we can refocus. Because maybe they want to play Tell on the wing. I would like this Tell, Odebear, and Scarlet, and then start Mikey Moore maybe like on Thursday, but we all know that's not going to happen. If we see Timo Werner, like he's just completely lost me. I don't know. I think genuinely we could see him start, which is upsetting.
Here's a conspiracy theory, not at all accurate. What if Mikey Moore's been training because he's going to be a 10 now? He's going to play central. Like what?
Fair.
What if?
I think his end game definitely is 10.
You can do it.
Yeah.
I think you could do it. Yeah, I think line up this weekend, whatever. I don't even care. But I think if I'm thinking about next Thursday, I think you have to go Romero, Van de Ven, like you said. I think you have to go
Porro and Spence.
Porro and Spence, exactly. Two guys who can get you forward and really, really create something on the end. And again, Porro's defensive acumen is questionable at times, but it doesn't matter. We need 2 or 3 goals in this match, right? And so I think we need Porro's attacking abilities. And like you said, Spence at left back. In the midfield, you probably
Archie Gray
at the 6.
Yeah. Still, you can like just do it. Like I don't give a fuck. Like just do it.
I'm for it.
I can't play Basuma in this game, dude.
No,
I don't trust it.
No, and I think you still go Bergvall. I do.
Yeah, for sure.
And probably Madison, but I wouldn't even hate Bergvall and Sar.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm kind of mad at Madison, obviously, so that probably factors into that. And then honestly, up top, I think Solanke needs to be given a go, and then on the wings, I'd go Sonny and Tell.
Okay.
And I want to say Mikey Moore. I just don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think it is. I think that would be absolutely wonderful if it did.
Yeah, but I think if you just give Tell a little bit of breathing room out wide, I think he's just more suited to at least getting going on the wing, and I think he's super talented. So
I'd probably bench Tell and rather go Odebear, like, which I think is more realistic. I think just Son and Johnson is not going to work. It's just not because they're just too for a low block. They're just too like direct. And not willing, and Johnson hasn't beaten his man in 20 years. So we need someone who's going to take on their man. You know how easy it is to break down a team when you just get like a 1v1 on the wing, one step over, big touch, whip it in, and then Solanke's scoring that. Like that's all we need.
Mm-hmm.
And Johnson's not providing that. And Son can, like we've seen him do those step overs, but sometimes they're just not working like yesterday. So. But you got to, because Son, despite all we've said about him, like he's a guy touch inside from however far out, like he can win you a game.
Totally. Son has to play. Yeah. All right, fellas. I think that's going to do it here for episode 39 of Emerald and Lilywhite. Been a kind of a drab one, but there's really no way around it after what we saw yesterday. Be sure to continue to tune in. We'll have more content coming throughout the next week for sure after this weekend prior to Thursday's match. You'll see something come out from us. As always, be sure to like and subscribe. It helps us grow not only the brand, but Seattle Spurs. That is the goal of all of this. You can find me at Scott G. Bird. You can find Max at Going Limbs. You can find Robbie at Robbie_Light. You can find us at And Lilywhite on all platforms. You can find Seattle Spurs at Seattle Spurs on all platforms. Make sure to sign up for the mailing list, seattlespurs@gmail.com. It puts you on the list. It gets you all kinds of information around not only Seattle Spurs, but Tottenham in general, match viewings, match times, injury news, you name it. You're going to find it in the Seattle Spurs Gmail list, so be sure to sign up for that. Get to our local pubs, our wonderful partners. We haven't talked about them much on today's episode, but you can find us at the Wits End in Finney Ridge. You can find us at Rainier Growlers and Cascades in Puyallup. Obviously kind of a north and south side setup there, right? So get to whatever's closest or whatever pulls at your heartstrings. Watch Spurs with some Seattle Spurs fans. we're probably going to lose, but it's more fun to watch a loss when you've maybe got a cold beer and some good
Daylight savings also, remember.
Oh, yeah, good call. It's going to be a tough one for y'all West Coasters, but yeah, be sure to get down to whatever pub is most conducive to you to watch Spurs. Make sure to tip your bartender as well. And I'm not going to say this as dramatically or euphorically as I usually would, but come on, you Spurs, I guess.
Come on, you Spurs.